like, it is literally life changing. And it's something for most middle class Americans that could be the difference between somebody being homeless and somebody actually being able to get that leg up in the world. So you definitely really want to understand that you can be stable right now, but when we're making these middle class incomes, we're one paycheck away a lot of times, right? And securing your housing is going to be able to secure you in a way that, hey, if you do lose your job, you have a lot more stability. And I think that is the most important selling point that I can give you towards purchasing a home.
All right. Yeah, man. So I did want to obviously touch base with, what's going on with the housing market. I know there's been a lot of updates in that area. Just wanted you have any information in regards to that?
Absolutely. Man, there is still a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear right now, man. And, I definitely don't want people to be fearful, whether it's just in the civilian community or in the veteran community, because housing is so essential, that it's essential. And you really have to start thinking long term when you're looking at housing. And people are so concerned about these interest rates, and they're really not getting what's really going on, and the fact that you need to always focus on your average mortgage payment, which is never going to go down. In the history of everything, whether rates were 20% back in the 70s or 80s, or they got all the way down to 4%, you were always paying more for housing, you know? So I think people, for some reason, they don't understand that, and they're not thinking long term in the sense that, hey, you know what? Maybe a $3,000 mortgage may seem expensive today, but you're going to have that same $3,000 payment 10, 20, 30 years from now. And then 30 years from now, that mortgage is going to be paid off. And now the average rental price is going to be $6,000 or $7,000. So, you're going to be making a lot of money. So I really want people to have that long-term thought process with things, and especially our veterans, get in with the VA loan. You don't have to put anything down on a property, and really start being more investment minded, because that's really a way to build wealth, right? While everybody is scared right now, you can really take advantage in getting into the market, right? Like, how many people wish they would have purchased a house in 2008, 2009, 10, different things like that, right? So really think about that, right? Everybody was scared. They didn't know what's going to happen, but what we all know is that we're sitting in some real estate right now. Even though we might have a virtual background, we still got to be somewhere, right? And so people are going to need housing, all the time. So you really need to definitely think about getting into the game and actually fixing your living expense, because that's always been increasing, right? It was one point where, your average rental cost was only about 10 to 15% of your income. Now it's getting to be, 30, 40, 50%, and even more for some people, which is making it very difficult to secure housing. And I really want our community to really be mindful of that and just stabilize that line item in your budget. Okay. Once you stabilize your housing and you're able to get an affordable payment that you can maintain, everything else in your life is going to start. You're going to start seeing some definitely increases in being able to save and start building wealth once you're able to do that.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you, man, because I will say, though, I think a lot of the media and also different, future projections are scaring people off, right? Creating a fearful mindset. But with that fearful mindset, we also have to take into account that, as you mentioned, there's nothing else going down, but housing is something that never goes down. That's never a decreasing thing, just due to the fact, obviously, population and so on and so forth. They may be temporary, but as you mentioned, having an investment mindset. Right, having an investment mindset. It's always for the long term. If you think about the short term is always it's a gamble. So if you don't have that experience of gambling, and you want to house your family as a veteran or anyone else, not just veterans, again, a pillar in your family. You want to house your family. That's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to purchase a home. Okay, it may not be wise to continuously to rent, because obviously, as Mr. Jones said here, stabilizing that line item could also project your family's future in a very high standpoint. Okay, so we always want to make sure that investment mindset, anything that you put in, you can get back. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And I even want to share a story from a veteran that I seen online that actually shared. And he purchased a home in like '95 while he was still active duty. Right, he was still active duty. Lived in that house for a few years, then converted that to a rental property. And now he still owns that home. I think he bought it for in like $150,000-$160,000 at that time. That house is worth over $750,000 now.
Wow.
And it got paid off over the last 20 years, right, by the tenants in the property, because he moved out of the house after a few years.
Wow.
So it's paid off, and now he has almost $1 million, right, by the time he actually retires, from his second career and different things, to actually either sell that house at that time or just keep collecting that monthly rent and actually use that towards his cost of living. So the things that you can do when you purchase early is very, very powerful. So I'm sure when in 1995, when he purchased that house, let's say it was $170,000, that was a lot of money in 1995.
True indeed.
Absolutely. It was a lot of money in 1995. But he went out there and said, hey, I can afford this. I'm doing this for me and my family. I'm going to make that decision. And now it's worth more than $700,000 today. So
that's incredible.
Phenomenal.
That's incredible. And I'll tell you, again, and we talk about, a lot of times we're talking about the future, right? We may not know when our day comes, but I tell you one thing, the world is still going to go around on a day-to-day basis. So you always want to take an account for that on what your legacy is going to be for your family. All right, being able to assist those people that unfortunately you left behind. So having that basis of a home is going to be able to secure them in some type of aspect, okay, financially and sentimentally. Some people stay in the same home for 20, 30 years, and guess what? Their children get old and they come back to that home, okay? Having that security blanket and hub is always vital to a family structure. So that is very prominent as well. I don't think we talk about that a lot as we're in a different generation, right? Before we used to be able to go to grandma's house or auntie's house or whoever's house. It's not so much of that anymore, right? It's 4th of July weekend. We know that somebody in the family was going to be throwing on a barbecue. We can always come by at that home that you were probably raised in, right? Or at that home that you can always go by. So we always want to be able to secure ourselves with real estate. So that's one aspect of things. And another aspect in regards to, as you mentioned, again, retirement and different things, I want you to understand as well, having something to pay you back as a retirement. We don't talk enough about reverse mortgages, right? That's not my lane. You're the expert in that. I'm not going to get too much into that, but that's an aspect. As you get older, when you get older, you're not going to be able to work all the time. You're not going to be able to work for the rest of your life. So you have to have some type of aspect in going to pay something that's going to pay you back, and having a home that is secure, paid off, that can be able to help you out.
Absolutely. Yeah, that definitely helps with retirement. And again, it's all about stabilizing your housing. Cannot stress that enough. And, some individuals, have trouble securing housing right now, no matter how much, they work. We have individuals that end up going to college and they're looking at what the starting salaries are right now. And it's very dismal, right, in comparison. And you look at it, it's like, well, wait a minute, you want to pay me less than $50,000 and I have a college degree And, and that stuff really hits home for me a lot because my former career was in higher education. And so I look at what they pay college recruiters and different things like that. And I'm just like, well, these individuals and teachers, not just professors, but actually K-12 teachers, it's like the salaries they make, and all of these individuals are here to inspire the youth, and they can't even afford to live in the communities that they teach. And it don't even have to be like a good community. Like if we're in Las Vegas, it doesn't have to be like Summerlin or in the nicer areas of town and different things. It's like they literally cannot afford, based on their salary, to buy a house in the ghetto. So it's very imperative to really stabilize that as soon as you can. If you're in a position to purchase, you want to do that, because the other thing, when we talk about that stabilization, like let's say, for example, you're renting a place, right? And you lose your job. They're going to kick you out within a couple months, based on what the regulations are and the eviction process. But you're gone within a couple months. Yeah. If you're a homeowner, they're going to work with you. They're going to work with you. They have modification programs. They have a lot of different things. And also you may have built equity into your property. And then even if you do have to end up, going towards like a foreclosure process, you would sell the property before you would get there and actually make money on the property. And you lived there mortgage free for a year or so before they got to those proceedings. It's like, it is literally life changing. And it's something for most middle-class Americans that could be the difference between somebody being homeless and somebody actually being able to get that leg up in the world. So you definitely really want to understand that you can be stable right now, but when we're making these middle-class incomes, we're one paycheck away a lot of times, right? Yeah. And securing your housing is going to be able to secure you in a way that, hey, if you do lose your job, you have a lot more stability. And I think that is the most important selling point that I can give you towards purchasing a home.
And again, man, I think I just want to unpack that a bit, because you touched on something that was huge. When you talked about foreclosure, being able to not being foreclosed on immediately, but having an option to sell first. Most people don't have that option. If you're renting, as he mentioned, you're kicked out in a few months. You're gone. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get your deposit back. Everyone talks about, I put this deposit down, you're going to get out the property, you're going to get my deposit. If you lived in that property more than 6 months, you're probably not going to get your deposit back. Something is messed up.
The carpet, put some holes in the wall.
It's something, okay? But with that being said, I wanted to unpack that a bit when you're talking about foreclosure. And the only reason we want to touch on that a bit, because I know we've helped many veterans in regards to trying to find an aspect through foreclosure, right? Working through that processes. There's been opportunities that they could have sold their property beforehand, before these proceedings have started, right? Now, most veterans don't know that. So can you walk them down that process in regards to how it typically will work after you've been notified, again, foreclosure, so on and so forth, the step-by-step?
Absolutely. So it's going to vary with your individual lender, right? But especially in a veteran community, and just the climax of after COVID, lenders are being very lenient with individuals on that. They want to keep people in their homes, especially leading up into election year. Nobody wants the foreclosure rates to go up, and especially nobody wants to kick veterans out their homes. Okay, so basically they're going to send you a letter of default to let you know, like, hey, you're 2-3 months behind on your mortgage payments, and they'll give you an opportunity to do a loan modification. Mm-hmm. That can work a few different ways. One of the different ways it can work is that they'll take the 3 or 6 months that you might be behind and put that to the back of the mortgage and say, hey, we'll forgive that. Go ahead and we'll modify the mortgage, and you'll have about 45 to 60 days to get caught up to make that first initial payment. And all forgiven, we can start over with that. So that is usually like a step one to do a modification, right? Which is, and even the step before that, if you notice you were going to fall behind, you could actually contact the mortgage servicer and say, hey, I just lost my job, or, I'm having some financial hardship, and they can put you on a program that's customized to you based on your situation. You let them know your income, all those different things. So the first step, even before you go into modification, you might just say, hey, I just need to skip one payment, right? And they'll let you skip one payment. So if that's not working, it's more severe, you'll go into a modification program. And if you do not fulfill that, then it's like, hey, you're still not doing that. They may start off with foreclosure proceedings. However, that can take 6 months, longer, right? And that could take almost a year and a half, 2 years, because the bank is in no rush to foreclose on you, especially if they see you have equity in a property. So if you purchase your home, before 2020, you've been in your home, a few years already, chances are you have some equity in a property, right? So what you're able to do, even if they say, hey, I'm going to foreclose on you, you can just contact your local realtor. If you don't know one, we can definitely connect you to one in your area, and we can kind of work with you to sell the property, right? And then you're able to sell the property. You may actually, here's some other game for you here, is that you may actually be able to work out something with the buyer of your property where you could actually live in it for maybe a month or two after you sell the property.
Wow.
So to even give you guys a little bit longer after that, you can say, hey, you know what? I want to close at the end of August, but I need an extra 60 days. And what that's called is a lease back option, right? So now you didn't live in this home for over a year, almost 2 years, no mortgage payment, and it allowed you to get on your feet. And if you were a renter, you would not have this afforded to you. Okay. So, so the main thing is that when you start experiencing financial hardship, to be honest with someone about it, right? Reach out to a professional. If you're not comfortable talking to your mortgage servicer, reach out to your local realtor, reach out to your loan officer that helps you with that loan. Reach out to us. We could provide you with some a consultation and kind of let you know vaguely some of your options. Obviously, if we're not in your exact state, certain regulations will be a lot different, but we can start creating an action plan for you, because a lot of times people wait till they're already in turmoil, their credit is bad, all these different things, to start looking at your options. And once you fall so deep into that hole, it's harder to get out of, right? Because if you still had good credit and you had equity in a property, then we might be able to do a cash out refi and do a lot of different things like that. So there's a lot of options for you if you're proactive, right? So I would say step one is to try to be proactive. If you're not going to be proactive, or you're already past that stage, reach out to us. We can create an action plan for you, help you in regards to reaching out and learning more about modifications and even different programs that the VA may have for you to get caught up, because there's a lot of local organizations that can actually help you pay your back mortgage payments to get caught up as well. So again, there's a lot of support out there. You just have to reach out and talk to someone for help.
True indeed. True indeed. And again, as you mentioned, these many of these banks, they don't want these homes. I'll tell you right now, they don't want these homes. They don't want your home. Okay, it's just a product that they put out on the market to be able to lend to the community. However, this product has provided an exorbitant amount of financial gain for them. So again, if we can find a way, we're going to be able to create that development action plan for you. We have obviously contacts and partnerships across the U.S. So we're wanting to be able to support you, put you with the correct VA specialist that's going to be able to specialize in, again, your circumstance, to be able to understand laws, rules, regulations, and be able to help you, okay, beyond anything, to be able to help you. All right. With that worst case scenario, at least you'll be able to get some information.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, man, that's great there. Next, we're going to actually get into our topic for today. So
Yes,
stay
sir.
tuned, and we'll be here with you.